Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 366. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black Entrepreneur Experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Would you like to finish your graduate degree with less debt and live life on purpose and with purpose? Our next guest is a student success strategist and founder of an award-winning education consulting and coaching firm, EdLinguish Solutions. Welcome, Dr. LaNysha Adams.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the blanks and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Sure thing. With over 50% of doctoral students not completing their degrees, I'm on a mission to championing current and future students in their pursuit of completing a graduate degree in record time. I was a first-generation college student and the very first in my family to obtain a Ph.D. And because of these experiences juggling multiple commitments as a non-traditional student, I understand the unique needs of students who are trying to complete their degrees while working full-time, parenting, or taking care of family members. I also co-founded Black LinkedIn is Thriving, a community with the purpose to empower and connect African-American professionals to unlock their limitless potential. It's also the only Clubhouse community featured twice in Forbes. And in addition to my working and professional passions, I'm a mentor to two amazing young women, a big sister, I'm a wife, mother of two wild, beautiful, and madly curious boys, ages 2 and 4.
Why education?
Mainly because I believe in the idea that it's the way in which you change your life and your thinking to fuel your life. When I was in school, grade school, I was always touched by the educators who had such a strong passion for devoting their life to that as a vocation. And I've had some amazing educators. And so that left a huge impression on me. And when I picked my first job or career pathway, I wanted to be a teacher, just like my favorite teacher, Miss Arlene Jindian, who was my grade English teacher. And when I got into that, I saw a lot of problems, like as a professional, about the field, and quickly changed my thinking about wanting to be the change in that particular position, career-wise. And so I started thinking more broadly, looking at it from a more entrepreneur perspective, where I could impact or have an effect on education, but I wanted to do it outside of the classroom.
Talk about motherhood and entrepreneurship.
Oh, the struggle is often very real. I think went off on my own to start my business or to do it full time in 2017. And that was a year before 2018, my first son. So I had been doing my business for 1 year part-time while working full-time for someone else. And then in 2017, I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to figure it out, create a good foundation. My husband and I were talking about having children. And I thought, if I get into the hang of this, it'd be a good way to have revenue coming in while also being there for my children. I didn't envision exactly what that would look like for my own personal life. I think you just don't know how you're going to respond when you have a child. I wanted the most flexibility, and that's what it's afforded me. And it comes with the joys and curses, that, like with most things in life, you have more flexibility. And so you have to adapt more. And that adaptability creates challenges in ways that, like I said, I wouldn't have imagined until I actually had children. So I can go into that a little bit more, but that's the long and short of it.
Talk about Dr. Adams. One of the buzzwords is the quiet quit. I want you to speak from the perspective going from a 9 to 5, a full-time job, into entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Quiet quitting, just like there's so many of these buzzwords that are just not precise enough to describe what that is. But I was having my own experience of that in my last year working for government agency. And I was frustrated so much so by the way in which progress was happening, how slowly it was happening. And then also I had unmet needs professionally where I didn't feel like I was getting the help that I needed. And also the help that I was provided wasn't actually helping. So it created this perspective that if I really wanted to break out, right, and affect change in the way that I envisioned it, then I would have to assume all the risks and the rewards of doing so. And again, like with most things in life, you don't really know exactly what that looks like until you're actually in it. And when I transitioned to do that from 9 to 5, or actually I was working 8 to 7, which was just untenable. And so I thought, I had the thinking, if I'm going to work like a dog and do it, I might as well do it for myself. And I actually adopted that same thinking. Now, over the years, I have had to transition that thinking to, you don't have to work like that. I mean, I really bought into this idea that working hard will equal success. And so it keeps you on this like kind of hamster wheel, this kind of thinking. And transitioning away from that has been probably my greatest task. But I think to answer your question succinctly, this idea of quiet quitting is like a transitory period where you're thinking about what your next step will be. And then once you're ready to take the leap, do so, but also embrace this just huge unknowingness of how you're going to adapt to whatever the new pathway is. And this kind of idea, this notion of being highly adaptable is, I think, a very good foundation for success, at least the way I think about success.
And just for the audience, I want to read this key takeaway for the term quiet quit, or quiet quitting refers to employees who put no more effort into their jobs than absolutely necessary. So I just wanted to clarify for anyone who, like you said, it's so many buzzwords going on nowadays. Let's talk about marriage, money, and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, there's a lot to say there. I think the main thing is I have to call out my privilege of being married to someone who works government job, who is in the Commission Corps, which is a uniformed service. So it's like it's like he's in the military. So he serves our country in the U.S. Public Health Service. And that comes with major benefits, one of them being tax-free housing allowance. And we get to take advantage of the VA loan. And that kind of security provides a buffer for my life. And so I think it's important to call that out. Not that everybody needs to know my business like that, but I think it's important to help people understand that's kind of the position that I'm in and where I'm speaking from. So in a partnership, this marriage, and we have 2 small children in this house, I'm able to take risks as an entrepreneur. Maybe some months I have less income because we've lived below our means, and we've created a life where I get to take a lot of risks with my income to operate the business because I'm bootstrapping. And then he is working his government job with that salary. And so we reduce our expenses in our life in order to support that. That's kind of the best way to tackle that question that you asked about all of those things combined.
You know, Dr. Adams, thank you so much. We want to first thank your husband for serving. And I want to thank you for being so authentic in terms of sharing and labeling it a privilege in terms of how you're coming at it. Because so many Black entrepreneurs, we don't have that privilege. And to be able to, so it is that hustle and grind. So I appreciate your authenticity and sharing that you're coming from a different space. And you talked about bootstrapping. So you're not getting any kind of capital or funding or anything like that. You're using your own reserve that you make in the business.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Fill in the blank. Thank you, pandemic, because.
Ooh, that's such a hard one. Thank you, pandemic, because I slowed down. I gave birth to my second son during the pandemic. I slowed down to create space to write my first book and have my first product. And I had a huge health crisis or episode, and that categorically changed my life in a way that I suppose is good, but I'm in the middle of navigating it. So I don't know. I don't know. It's like I'm grateful for what I'm learning, but I don't know if I'm thankful for it. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense.
Talk about your book and your product.
Yeah. So my book is called Me Power, and I recently won an award for that work, for that body of work. Put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that text. This nonfiction, and I really talk about me power as knowledge of self combined with principled action in 5 key ways. Embrace your barriers, focus on your strengths, speak for your life, choose your guides, and ritualize your reflection. And it really is teaching folks how to combine self knowledge, who you are, and how that changes over time with principled action to catalyze change for yourself and others. And it's interesting. I wrote it. I thought, oh, I had just had a baby. I'm going to write a book because everything shut down, and I thought things were going to really shut down for me and my business in a way that where I had the opposite effect, right? Because when you have things shutting down, people are like, I want to go back to school. I really want to figure out how I'm going to get into grad school. And there was a lot of government funding for research projects and consultancy work. And so I was slammed. And it took me 2 years to produce this body of work. But I'm so grateful that I really was able to put these thoughts down in a coherent way. And I really wrote it for folks in the business of empowering others. My aim is particularly educators focus on how to get their students to find purpose, own their learning, and reach their full potential. But even if you're a parent or you're an educator or you're an entrepreneur and you're really grappling with this question of who do I want to be, Me Power will help you discover your self-identity and rediscover it, right? For many of us, because it's not fixed, it's ever expanding as you move and groove through life.
And who is Dr. Adams?
I am a pacemaker powered Peloton rider now. I am a lover of language. I am a woman who is committed to being and helping others to really tap into the heart and essence of who they are.
What does self-care look like for Dr. Adams?
If I could wave a magic wand, I would sleep more. I understand the importance of sleep. I think there are a lot of challenges with a 2.5 and a 4.5 year old disrupting said sleep. Sleeping more is going to be at the top of my priority once these kids can get out of their phases of waking up early or staying up later in the middle of the night, doing whatever they do. Self-care also looks like meditating and keeping my blood pressure even kill. I'm an Aries, so I'm very fiery. I like having a fiery spirit. I try not to get too hyped, but I like this kind of energy, where you're excited and you're like, you're popping off, like this kind of way I love it. But now I have a heart condition. I have to like be cool, be easy, be more chill and tranquilo. And it's just funny. Like I think that dominates a lot of my thinking about, how do I stay measured, calm, even kill, so that everything's regulated. And then self-care also looks like drinking a lot of water and being more mindful of how I am physically. So am I standing up a lot? Am I getting enough steps in? Am I just honoring the vessel that I occupy on planet Earth? And I'm always looking for ways to really move the needle to improve that.
Talk about co-founding Black LinkedIn Thrive and being featured in Forbes.
Yeah, so Black LinkedIn is Thriving is really cool. So there's an article in the New York Times called the headline, Black LinkedIn is Thriving. Does LinkedIn have a problem with that? And in the article, it's written by Ashanti Martin. It came out in October 2020. And in that article, Ashanti features dominant voices on LinkedIn talking about their experience as Black professionals and how they're navigating it. And then if you remember, when George Floyd and the response to how he was murdered, how that happened across every context. On LinkedIn, there were dominant voices talking about that and really speaking truth to power in ways that were unprecedented on that platform. And, we see on Twitter, we have Black Twitter, but was there ever like a Black LinkedIn? And there is. And so it was cool to read this article and to think about some of the themes represented there. One of the kind of subtext of the article was this notion of our identity as Black people and how it's multifaceted. There isn't one way, there isn't one kind of Black, right? And also it's worldwide. So like this notion of the diaspora and how that looks different depending on where we are, but yet because we occupy darker skinned bodies and the melanin, people hate on us in certain contexts. So what does that mean for us as we navigate that? What does that look like? How do you respond to it? And then how, in spite of maybe some of this venom that we get, how do you still thrive with that? How do you go beyond just thinking about basic survival, even when you're hustling, bustling, struggling? At the time, I was pining for an invite for Clubhouse, this audio only app. And one of my favorite collaborators, Bianca Jackson, she had, they gave you only limited ones. So I had to ask her a few times to give me the invite. Finally, she gives me the invite. Then she's like, okay, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, wait, how does the app work? She's like, girl, just pick a topic and let's talk about it. Open a room and let's talk. I had no idea what this meant. I'm academic minded. So I said, okay, well, we're going to talk about this article that I read. And I think it'd be very interesting to hear what people think about this. So I had questions and we were going to unpack the article. We opened that room, 500 people flooding in because they were really attracted with the Black LinkedIn describing idea. What is Black LinkedIn? Where is it at? So then what came of that, right? Like we started at Sunday morning, 9 a.m. And I remember we had this back and forth. Do we pick 9 a.m.? And it turns out it's the best time. Maybe not for East Coast folks, but we still have people come in at 6 a.m. on or West Coast folks coming in at 6 a.m. West Coast time. And really, we started unpacking the article, but really what we did was build a community and we attracted other folks who help us moderate the space, right? So if you think about it, it's a conversation that happens on an audio only app. You don't see people, you can see their little profile pic and whatever they write in their profile. But when we did it, we didn't know, first of all, there'd be hundreds of people in there. So people come up to the stage, you don't know what they're going to say. They might say crazy stuff. You have to moderate that. They're messaging you in the back end. So if you have hundreds of people, you need more people to help navigate all that. So we built it out to have 5 moderators. Then we had guest moderators coming in to help us navigate all of that. And what was beautiful was in the beginning, all the folks featured in the article, including the person who wrote the article, were on Clubhouse and they saw the title and came to us. I didn't know these people beforehand. I didn't know Ashanti, right? I knew her writing, but I didn't know I didn't know her. And it was just really cool, right? So we would deconstruct the article idea theme-wise. Then we started talking about it with the actual people featured in the article. And then we evolved to building a community where we have a space on LinkedIn, a group where people can join and network and connect in ways that help us thrive, right? And so maybe you're a parent and you are a new parent and you're an entrepreneur. Well, there's a whole community called the Parentpreneur Foundation. And a lot of us are in both spaces. And so how cool is that? You can connect with hundreds of people who have that same identity. Oh, and by the way, they're Black. And that means something different, right? So say you're a dad and you're looking to connect with someone like that, or you have an idea for something, or you want to become a minority certified business and you need to understand the process. Well, we have the head of that association in there. We have the head of the SBA in DC. There are some Grammy Award winning artists in our community. There are, just some amazing folks that you're like, wow, and there's no membership it was created with in the vein of let's connect and let's do it authentically, let's do it deeply. And so we were less focused on monetizing it, or not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just we have an ethos that we call organic intentional alignment, where we have topics, we cover them, we still meet twice a month now instead of every Sunday. For 2 years straight, we met every Sunday at 9 a.m. Didn't miss one Sunday. And that was by the grace of our community coming with us, committed to it. But then also we have 5 co-founders who are able to moderate the conversation that happens week over week. So now we're just twice a month, second and fourth Sundays, 9 a.m. Eastern. And the conversations that happen from that really do things in ways that I can't even capture the magnitude of. And so, yeah, that space lights me up. It's provided me with so much groundedness. During the pandemic, I didn't have any contact with my family lives in California. I was isolated with the 2 children. They were driving me nuts. You know, the baby crying all the time. And then I'm an extrovert and I'm so used to dealing and interacting with people. All that shuts down. And this community that was born out of just an idea to talk about an article really provided a saving grace for me. And then I also know for a lot of our community.
I want you to have a monologue. I want you to name this person, living or not. This person has inspired you so much. Who is that person and what are you saying to that person?
The person is Melody Rash. She's still living. We're really close friends. And I would like to tell her that people are everything. She knows this and she embodies this idea as a human experience leader, operationalizing her talents in HR at the largest educators union in Washington State. And so to her, I would say, I've learned to never hide my spirit and talents in any work context. When you hide aspects of who you are that are core to who you are, you do something more damaging to yourself than anybody could ever do to you. And this is a very powerful lesson, and also something that I close my eyes and I think, never again will I do that. And never again will I encourage anyone to do something like that. It doesn't matter. You have to be who you are, fully, boldly, beautifully. So thank you for teaching me that.
Thank you for sharing. I want to step back a moment when you talked about Black LinkedIn thriving. And I kind of just leaped over that. So I want to apologize. That was phenomenal what you guys have built there. So I don't want to gloss over that. Someone's interested in joining. How do they join?
Yeah, absolutely. So you would reach out to me directly, but you can go on LinkedIn and look for hashtag Black LinkedIn is thriving. And it's a group and there's a page. So if you go to the page, you can join the group, and the group is on LinkedIn. If you aren't on LinkedIn and you're more curious about learning how to get on there, you don't have to. I mean, I would say you have to join LinkedIn, but if you don't want to, you can also just download the Clubhouse app and find us on there. And Black LinkedIn is one word. It's Black and then LinkedIn, and it is thriving. And then you find us there. Me, Martin Pratt, Keisha Kent, Melody Rash, Bianca Jackson, and Audrey Boyce. We're all moderators and co-founders of this space. That's
amazing. If someone's interested in purchasing your book, where would they find it?
Anywhere books are sold. You can buy it on my website, LaNysha.com. If you want an autograph copy from me directly, I'm working on getting all the places that have the book now in store. I think there are 7 independent bookstores around the country. And I'm working on signing those, but I have to physically go there and do it. So if you want a physical copy within 5 days or so, I got to sign it, ship it out. Or you can buy it on Amazon, or you can download an electronic copy. It's on sale right now. And yeah, that's how you can find the book.
That's awesome. There's so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Name a brand or business that's dominating that you admire and why.
I've been thinking about this. I think The brand that I really love right now is Otter.ai. They produce a product that's cloud-based, and there's a non-cloud-based version. You can go online or download the app, but you use it as a recording tool. So you record audio and you can sync it with Zoom and all the other things you use to have conversations. So you can record the audio, and then that audio is auto transcribed by software. And it's very precise when it knows. I've been using it since its beta days for years now, and it knows my cadence, my voice. And so it's cool how in the transcript, it will separate my voice from the voice of another speaker. And I pronounce things in a different way. Sometimes it knows my voice. And so I really love that kind of AI that adapts to you. And what's cool about it is if you're doing interviews or research or anything where you need a transcript, you can use that and auto transcribes, you can clean it up, but it's saved in a cloud system. So you can highlight, you can take clips from it. And that company and all the things that they're doing are just phenomenal. I think their customer service is great. Their social media game is on point. Like if you make a comment to them, they have a few execs that monitor that. Normally it's not an executive monitoring social media, but they can interact in ways that really make it come to life. And so I really look to that company to see, as a tech company, what are they doing? How are they moving? In what ways can I potentially partner with them to do something more beyond just a user, like a sponsorship kind of thing, or in a bigger way? I haven't navigated that quite yet, but that's how I'm thinking now because I love them so much.
Advice you wish you had followed?
I wish I would have followed this idea that credit, when used well, is good. And business credit is especially great in moments where you don't have the cash flow. And so, in short, when used responsibly, credit is helpful.
Who are your top two influencers or mentors, and what lesson did they teach you?
Yeah, I kind of talked about one, Melody Rash. My other top influencer is also a hero of mine. I don't have very many heroes. It's funny. I have categorically one. I'm my own hero. And the person who's influencing me a lot and who has been since I was about 14 years old is Aline Jindian, my ninth grade English teacher. And she embodies living your purpose in ways that empower others naturally. She's teaching me that all the time, even though if you were to ask her, I don't think that would be her primary focus, which I love because it's just part of who she is as a person. Beautiful. That's one of my top influencers.
Who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is an organization, someone who works in a decision-making capacity for an organization that is a learning institution. I think all organizations are learning institutions, but some don't believe that. And so the ones who really are inherent about that are, schools, universities, nonprofits, but a learning organization that's looking for ways to move the needle for their team and in a way that isn't coming from the outside in, but that's going to facilitate all the power players or part of that organization and to help amplify the strengths and talents that they already have. So someone who really believes in their people and want to come up with an innovative way to really tap into those folks, that's my ideal client, because then they would have me come in to workshop with them, to unpack the themes from the book with them, to connect this notion of me power and the 5 principles to something practical that they do within that learning context. And so that's my ideal client.
The word is play. How did you play today, or how will you play today?
Yeah, I play every day. I think having small children really helps with that. We have these dance parties, and the dance parties are really amazing because they're to songs sometimes that aren't really my jams. They're the kids' jams. And it's kind of cool to, have a dance party to music that maybe isn't your thing, like Elmo, right? Elmo comes up with all these songs that are takes on modern day beats or whatever. And when you get into it, it doesn't matter what the songs are actually. What matters is the dancing and the joy part of that, and kind of playing and mimicking each other. And it's just really wonderful to get to do that every day. I think I would do it even if I didn't have children. I think I might not think about it as frequently, but it's nice to do. It's fun. It's a kind of levity. You get to be moving in your body. And that's my favorite form of play, dance.
What breaks your heart?
When our ego is bigger than our humanity, when people think that they are more than other people because of what they have or what they think or what they do.
What brings you joy?
The smallest things in life. Yesterday it was 60 something degrees winter. So that's so unusual. And I stood outside looking at, it's 60 something degrees, but it's still kind of breezy. And I was standing in the sun and I was looking at a tree and the leaves on the tree are moving. And I was thinking, this is wonderful. And I just felt one of the most deep kind of joys of experiencing that moment, being outside without a jacket, standing out there in the breezy wind, looking at this tree. There's the sun beaming down and thinking, I get to take another breath in this moment. I get to be in right here, right now. That really does bring me joy.
What problem exists in the world today, Dr. Adams, that you'd like to solve?
I think this idea that when you're not sure of something, when you're uncertain or you're afraid, that you have to, or it's comfortable, easier to look at a situation and think, I'm better because, right? Because you want to have a surety. So this problem of like, when I'm uncertain, I just look at where I could be and I say, oh, I'm glad I'm not there. That to me is a problem because I think it creates this thinking that you're better than another person or better than someone else in a worse off situation. And I don't think we're better. I think we're all in the same mess. I think that we should be our own standard of comparison, where we were to where we are now, not who somebody else is and someone else's misery. What does that have to do with you? I really see that as a problem. And I think that problem leads to actions taken against other humans in ways that are disempowering. And so if I could wave a magic wand, in fact, I devote my life to this kind of work, but if I could wave a magic wand, it would be less of that. That would be gone. And then we would just be our own individual standards. And then when we look to another person, we're thinking, how can I help them? How can I serve them? How can I serve them? How can I be a better person to them? And then in kind, they ask the same question for you.
What do you need right now that you don't have to move the needle forward in life or your business?
I don't think I have enough help for childcare and all the unpaid labor of being a mother. I don't think I have enough help there. And honestly, I don't think if I had quote unquote help, I could outsource a lot of what's required. And I really wish we had more spaces for this kind of discourse, for this kind of real talk, as I call it, where it's just hard being a provider, a care provider to anybody, where you have children, you have pets, you have elderly people that you're caring for, friends that need your help. It's hard being a care provider. And I think I just need more support for creating space for myself. And that doesn't have to be by myself, but for myself with other people. That's how I accelerate. That's actually how I regenerate a lot of like burned out energy is with others. I'm an extrovert, and quality time with close old friends where we can have these kind of real talk conversations is amazing. And without screaming children in the background, that's even better. Like this is beautiful. So if I could devise a way to get more help in ways that are more in sync with my life. That's less of a transaction kind of thing. I think that would be great. But I'm living a life that is very different than how I grew up, where my mom, who was a teen mom, had an entire village. Her grandparents, her parents, her sisters, their siblings, the grandparents' siblings, all lived in this. That's how I grew up. So I had an entire village of people that were part of my mom's care team. And even when I wasn't with her, if she was at work or she would do whatever she was doing as an adult, I was cared for by someone that I knew and that was trusted in our family. I don't have that for my children, and I'm clamoring to figure out ways to provide that for them. Maybe we have to move to a different place. Maybe I need to see my friends who have children more, who live all over the DMV. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I have some time, I think. And if I had more help in that area, oh, that would move the needle for me, and personally and professionally, I think.
Let's look at a snapshot of the last 30 days. What was your biggest win?
Last 30 days. Okay. Biggest win probably was learning that I've sold 500 copies of Me Power since September, late September. And when I learned this information, I didn't have a context. So I thought, oh, that sucks. I need to sell more. That's how I think. And then I talked to someone yesterday who is an expert in the business and she said, wow, for someone who's not famous and with a press, like a large press publishing house, that's significant because the average number of books sold by an author are like 200 over 10 years for most authors, which I was like, wait a minute, like, so I'm above the average. And then not only that, but I have some traction, and I'm still trying to think about how to move full steam ahead to sell my first product. This is how I think of it. And I was thinking, wow, what a milestone, like what an accomplishment. But that's new. Like, as of yesterday, when I had that conversation, I now have that awareness, but I was only thinking in terms of, oh, I got to do more. It's not enough. What's enough? What's enough?
What is your biggest takeaway from our conversation today? What do you want the audience to leave with?
The biggest takeaway, I think, would be that when in business, right, it's so important to remember to have patience and the perspective that everything takes time. Consistency and patience are extremely underrated. And I think one of the undercurrents of what I've been talking about is how maybe I have a vision, and then I went to execute it. And then through the execution, I learned so many things that enrich my life, enrich my business, enrich my pockets. But then it didn't happen in the time span that I envisioned it. And that's okay. And I think that's really important to understand.
If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
The question would be, what's driving you to do what you do? My answer would be, I'm here so that my grandchildren's grandchildren can never relate to the struggle and suffering I knew growing up. I'm also here to leave products behind so that they know my life from my perspective. I'll never meet those people. And I want to leave clues in published works, particularly in black and white in the printed word, that stand the test of time, so that my grandchildren's grandchildren can understand who I am, and they can relate to it, but they can also not relate to it because their life is light years beyond the one of struggle that I knew. That's why I think I'm here.
Speaking of legacy, when it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
Whew, that is a powerful question. I think about this a lot, actually. I think about it when I think about if today was my last day, what's the impression that I would want to leave? And I think for everyone who's known me and everyone who that I've encountered in any capacity, I think I want them to know that I lived fully. I was honest through and through and authentic. And if you are living your life fully and authentically and honestly, nothing is going to stand in your way. That's the legacy I want to leave behind.
Dr. Adams, we've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
I am ready.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Probably Lauryn Hill.
Your favorite dance song?
No Agreement by Fela Kuti.
What is your comfort food?
Cashews.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Green smoothies, spinach with fruit of all kinds.
The last movie you saw?
Woman King, and that was in the theater.
You relax doing what?
Reading and reconnecting with old friends.
Your ideal car?
Ooh, it doesn't exist yet, but solar-powered electric vehicle that stays powered for 24 hours.
Dr. Adams, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you, and feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Absolutely. The best way to connect with me is to sign up for my newsletter on LaNysha.com, and that's LANYSHA, my name.com. And my social media handles are at EDLinguist, LINGUIST. And that's true on all of the platforms, the same handle. And I'm always happy to correspond with people. So if you find me and you sign up for the newsletter, you can email me, or you can find me on LinkedIn. We can connect that way too. And I'm always happy to connect with folks and talk with people. It doesn't cost anything to have a conversation. And so if you are curious about anything that I've discussed, or my perspective about how I'm powering my business and still in business after 7 years, please connect. Happy to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. That's a wrap.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.